growing up around cars. And I would agree. I think I've just had a bunch of junky lines. I've had some lines that are, really big name brands that like I just go to tighten on the car and they just like strip out or break. I mean, I just think I think, yeah, I think they are, some people's are consumables is I guess is what I'm getting at.
Green flag. Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by DeechWorks Fuel Systems. Use Apex 10 at checkout to get 10% off fueling your passion. If you want to support the podcast, share with a friend, or consider going to buymeacoffee.com/The Blind Apex Podcast. On this episode, I want to talk about a less thought about consumable. And maybe some other stuff, time attack, and other things are going to pop up, I'm sure. Joining me, he really is a kindred spirit. He's got an affinity for carbon fiber, I think only rivaled by me, except for I don't have a full carbon fiber 240Z. But he's also a motorcycle guy at heart. He's attacked Pikes Peak. He's the man behind Hell Performance USA, Shawn Bassett. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on. That's pretty cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like podcasting allows everyone to have a voice, and this one just gives a voice to what we all care about, which is motorsports, right? So,
for sure.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. We'll get into some stuff, I'm sure, later on, because I have a crazy motorcycle project I'm trying to deal with in addition to my race car, but it's only like 20 years in the making, but we'll see.
There's no rush on it. You take your time, have fun with it.
I'm in the frames hanging from the ceiling right now.
Oh, you're almost done.
I mean, I chopped it up a little bit, but that's about it. I haven't touched it. My problem with motorcycles is that they're worse than iPhones sometimes, right? The innovation that can occur in the motorcycle world is rapid. Not that it always translates, right? Like Yamaha's got the same old CP3s, right? The engine's tried and true, right? But their color LCDs have come a long way. The ABS traction control, it came rushing forward, right? So when you want to do an older bike, it's a little wild.
I don't know, man. I think motorcycles are easy. Building cars for a living, part of what I do. I remember back to my two-wheel racing days. I'm like, man, if this is so much easier, it's so much cheaper. It's just everything is, for me, about motorcycle racing is just so much easier. And I've got this huge rig to take the car around. I mean, I used to be able to throw my bikes in the back of a pickup truck, and times were simpler for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people have simpler times with race cars. I'm still an open trailer race car guy. I have a Tundra, a pop-up tent. We sleep at the track in a tent, and an open trailer. It's the only complaint I have is I'm getting too old to be loading and unloading the pickup truck every time,
Yeah, for sure.
But
I'm a winch guy, man. I'm not pushing it. I'm winching that thing up, man.
Oh, I drive it up, so that's even more dangerous. It's exciting. So
yeah, I've touched too many end plates to drive cars up in the trailers now. So
for sure, I'm 100% sure with that 240 of yours. So
we got about 3/4 of an inch on either side of the wheel well. So I stopped playing that risky game a while ago.
I'm hoping to have him on the podcast. There's a guy in our paddock. He's got a carbon wide body Audi S3, and he's got one of those. It lowers itself, and he between his wheels and his fender, he might have half an inch on each side, maybe.
Oh wow!
So it's wild getting that thing on a trailer, but. So let's talk about where this began. You hinted at motorcycle racing first, but how'd you get into cars? How did you get into all of this mess?
Well, long time ago, it's a little 15-year-old Shawn. So I convinced my parents that CRX SI was just some little small little car that no one cared about.
Great
So I'm a
economy.
yeah, it was yellow and it had prime three spoke wheels on it. It was terrible, but I saw this little diamond in the rough and um, yeah, I thought it was a cool little car. And man, I've been a Honda kid ever since. I don't have any Hondas right now, but I tell you right now, I'm on Marketplace. I type in EG6 probably more than anything else. Yeah,
Well,
so I've been through a bunch of Hondas, EFs and EGs and all kinds of stuff, and that kind of got me into cars, but not really into racing. And I had an EG6 that I went and did an autocross event with, and I was terrible. I mean, it was so bad. I had no experience on a track at all. Garbage, absolutely garbage. But I loved it. I was like, I'm so bad at this because as a kid, I always raced dirt bikes.
mm,
So I just thought I'd go out there and be just, F1 driver. And I was humbled real quick, and I was just not fast. And I think a lot of the car, I kind of knew where to be, right? I could see like, Apexes and stuff like that, but like the car setup was trash. I was 18. I didn't know how to set a car up, and I was definitely more into looks than I was, I was more into like having rare JDM parts on the car than I was like having good suspension and stuff. So
we all started there,
yeah,
literally.
yeah.
Yeah. So
And
my
so
first Honda was also a Y49 yellow, Barbados yellow CRX. So that's
really,
even crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
that's cool. Yeah, so you
So
even know the color. Mine didn't last long because I think I had it for probably 6 months, and I just got ran off the road by somebody and flipped the car a bunch of times. It was crazy. My mom was super pissed, but then yeah, then I got my hatch life. I got into EFs and stuff like that. So,
so
but,
ju- they're cursed. It's called the Y49 curse. They all died that way. I could have
it's
told you that.
unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is unfortunate. I actually know where there's a survivor, and I'm afraid like it's so far buried.
resurrected.
It's so far back in this parking lot that, and it's surrounded by like dumpsters and all this other stuff that nothing can run into it. But now that I've said that, it's probably going to get struck by lightning or something. But
Yeah, or a meteor's gonna come down and blast it.
right, right. Well, it's way too close to my house for a meteor. I'd be in deep trouble. But
So yeah, I mean, I was a Honda kid, and then I actually got in a lot of trouble with street racing, like a lot. Your boy got late. My driver's license was suspended multiple times. I was classified as a habitual traffic offender,
okay,
and that kind of really like ruined me for love of cars for a while, just because it was not a fun time in my early 20s with that. So I kind of like worked at a motorcycle shop and got a track bike and realized this is way more responsible. You know what I mean? I can actually like go fast on a track and uh, really learn how to be, a good rider at the time. And, I raced, pro racing for two wheels for quite a while, super sport and stuff like that. And then I really got into supermoto, which I kind of mixed the passions of, riding dirt bikes and road racing. I don't think there's anything cooler than jumping a dirt bike on slicks. I think and then also backing it into turns. That's something I always think I'm going to get back into, but I'm like, I'm 40. I can't break myself off like I used to. And
those collarbones aren't the same. They don't heal the same.
man, both are trashed. I got man. Being out, and that's like the segue is how I got into four-wheel racing. Is my plan was to race Pikes Peak on a supermoto, and then kind of I started going to Pikes Peak as a spectator and realized, oh, this is something I definitely want to do. And then I was kind of transitioning into like pulling back so I wasn't all the way out, but I was doing less pro racing. And then my little JDM kid kicked back in, and I was thinking, well, if I could build a track car, I think I'd like to do a 240Z. And I'm not a purist by any means. I like chopping cars up and putting wrong engines in them and stuff like that. But yeah, I just one of the, little. So how it happened is I was doing a track day on my supermoto, and we were sharing the track day with cars. So we would do a session, they would do a session, and there was a yellow 240Z just having a blast out there, and I just thought that was the coolest looking car. And I talked to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's just a ratty car, but it's it's miles for miles, just a really fun car." And that night I went home and went on Craigslist, found a yellow, believe it or not, a yellow 240Z for $1,100, and down in Miami, and went and scooped it up. And then here we are.
And it's not yellow anymore.
No, yeah. I mean, so kind of how that snowballed is I really just wanted to build a track car. That was it.
Right.
And I still wanted to race Pikes Peak on two wheels. And then, unfortunately, Carlin Dunn lost his life at Pikes Peak. And after that, they pretty much stopped doing two-wheel racing there. It's really just insurance reasons. I think they'd love to have two-wheel racing back, but it's just not probably going to happen. And then I thought to myself, well, like in my mind, my bucket list is I want to race Pikes Peak. And kind of at the same time, I had the Z, and I was at that point taking it apart because the thought was kind of like a resto mod track day car, and I just realized that car was absolute trash. No one should be building this car. It was really just a piece of junk. And then I just kind of like let the car sit for about 6 months, and I just got a wild hair up my butt, and I was like, so I'm building myself a Pikes Peak car. And yeah, so that's the car you kind of see today is, started off as just like a little dream, and here she is.
Did you use the original car as like mold material? Because it can't be. What? There's none of that yellow car in your current car, is there?
There's a little, and I joke that like I left the good parts, but I don't think anyone understands how bad the car was. If you owned a 240, you know that these cars were never like prepped for long-term life, right? They just really didn't have a lot of rust inhibitors and stuff like that. And they just rot. There's so many places on the cars that just drain water. And over time, like the battery trays and the back deck lids. And, I mean,
all the rockers have to fall out of them.
Frame rails, all that stuff. And I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I've been around cars my whole life, but this is my first, like, I would say classic car build. And man, I picked a terrible one. So, I wouldn't have known what I know now. I should have given that guy $5 for that car. But, so what is left, right? Essentially not the firewall, but like the bulkhead surround. So the top of the bulkhead, and then essentially where the doors attach. The rockers are not, but the back of the door strikes, that part of the frame is there. The window surround, and essentially like 3/4 of an inch of the like attached body is still metal, so that the carbon body can attach to it.
Okay.
Well, that's it. Taillights. Sorry, yeah, taillights.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just enough to call it a 240 still. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because anybody who's like a 240 purist says a car's not a 240, but like when they call the races, they call it a 240. I'm just like, what do you want it to be called? It's a carbon blob thing. So yeah, I still think the 240 spirit of that car is definitely there. I mean, I couldn't have built that car without what was left of the original car. So I like to think that, it was on its deathbed, and I gave it a little bit of a second lease on life. I think it's living its best life. I definitely didn't think it left Japan thinking that that's where it was going to be today.
Right.
So
absolutely not. It's more of like a RoboCop, right? Does it still have the VIN?
100% a RoboCop car. I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah. I mean, does it still have
a
VIN on it? Yeah. So
I did. I put I cut the VIN out of the OEM firewall and I grafted onto the new one.
Okay.
And then I put all of the like the VIN for the dash is still on. I have a carbon dash in the car, but it's still there. All like the door VIN is still there, and the engine bay VIN is still attached.
It's a 240.
Yeah, right. I still have a clean Florida title for that thing. So
right,
as far as the state of Florida is concerned, it's a vehicle that I could register.
And it's very much shaped like a 240. I mean, it's got the 240 nose and roof line and those things, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, my goal for that car was a big aero car and a lot of carbon fiber. I used to own a carbon fiber company, and one of the things was like it would turn from a hobby into a business. And then when the kind of the business side started happening, I really couldn't do any of the, like the hobby stuff anymore. I was just doing what clients wanted me to do. So fast forward, life, I work for somebody else at this point, and then I was thinking, all right, cool. Now I can do like what I want to do with this car, but from the get go, I wanted to make sure it still looked like a 240. Like there was a 240 trapped in all of that aero.
Oh, it looks that way to me. I think you did a great job with it. As far as I'm concerned, and it's caught the world by storm. As far as I'm concerned, that car was on Hoonigan. It's been. I mean, all you have to do is Google Shawn Bassett 240, and there's hundreds of pictures everywhere, and articles and everything. So I think most people appreciate it. Just the people who don't might be a little louder. So
Yeah, I mean, I think each to their own. Everybody's got their own taste. I think why this car resonates with so many people is it's just genuine. When I built this car, I really didn't care about any of the stuff that happens with it now. I was just at the time really trying to do my best work, or I thought, was my best work. I was trying to do my best welding. I'd never built a tube chassis car, so it took me like years to actually like fully weld the chassis just because I didn't want to do it wrong. And of course, I look back on it now. I got most of it right, but I would do some different things now. But yeah, I was just trying to do my best work, and it was just for me. And really, like, I have to really thank Toyo Tires because they kind of just like reached out to me randomly. I was just really documenting my whole build on my Instagram, and they're like, "Hey, this thing's rad. Would you want it? To debut it at SEMA?" And I think that was 2018. And I was like, "Well, what's SEMA? Like, I'm a motorcycle guy. I don't, you know what I mean?" And like, I know it's so crazy to think that like I wouldn't know that, but like I really didn't know much about SEMA, and I had to like Google it, and I was like, "Oh, that's seems like a pretty big event, right?" And then I get the opportunity to debut it at SEMA, and I took it really serious. I didn't really think of like SEMA cars like I know now, right? Like I didn't realize that most of them don't run and stuff like that. Like I was, for me, debuting my personal work, and I was debuting like my race car. It wasn't a show car, you know what I mean? And like that was so. I think just the genuine part of that build, it wasn't made for the internet, right? I think probably a lot of people think that it is, but I really was just trying to do my own thing, and I really kind of just stumbled upon some really good opportunities. The Toyo Tread Pass turned into like Hoonigan opportunity and stuff like that, which that Hoonigan thing was a crazy thing. I'd never done a burnout in a rear wheel drive car ever. So the first time I'm going to do it is in
in
the
the
Z
Barnyard.
with a bunch of people. I had no idea what to expect. I like show up and I'm thinking like, oh, it's just me, right? No, they were shooting like 5 other cars. There's like pro drift cars there. And I was like, oh, I'm about to clown myself right now. And man, I just channeled some, I don't know. I just channeled something. I think I did a pretty good job whipping that car around the barnyard with so many people watching. It was really intimidating.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting story because YouTube's highly edited. Hoonigan, rest in peace ish, whatever.
Yeah.
But when in its heyday, when you were on there, like to know there were
that was
many
crazy.
cars. Yeah.
So that like started my relationship with Nads. Like, like he's doing a bunch of different stuff now, but I did a build biology or a build breakdown. I think that's what they called with it. So we shot that, and man, he was such a cool dude. And then, then I did the Barnyard episode, and that's really like how I started my friendship with Hurt. You know what I mean? I, see him everywhere now. He's at, all the Grid Lives and stuff like that. And, he's a Central Florida boy. So like, we hit it off pretty good, but the Hoonigan, opportunity was really cool. And just the same thing. I'm just a dude and just kind of doing it for fun. And it was really cool. One of my really good friends, Scott Birdsall, came out of that. He Chuckles Garage. So
Hmm.
I was, I think I got in right at the pinnacle of Hoonigan, and I think I was honored to ride that wave for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and the memories, obviously, the friendships you've made, the contacts, the folks that you've met in the industry, the opportunities that come with it, they're all important. And all you did was be true to yourself to build the car you wanted to build, right? So,
Yeah, things are a lot more corporate now with the car, but yeah, I mean, back then I
yeah,
was
yeah.
just like a dude that was just like stoked to be living, and just building a car. It was so crazy too because like I went out there to do Hoonigan, and this was right before Global Time Attack at uh, Road Atlanta.
Hmm.
So I went all the way to LA to shoot all the Hoonigan stuff. Did a burnout of my car that I'd never done before, and essentially kind of just got the car running really good for Hoonigan stuff. And then I hightailed it to Atlanta to do my first race in the car at Road Atlanta. And I had raced Road Atlanta on two wheels, but I can tell you right now, if you've ever raced two wheels and four wheels there, it might as well be like the track flipped upside down. Everything that you think is there is not there. It's such a weird thing to race there on two wheels and then on four wheels. That was the craziest timeline. We went straight from shooting to straight to the track, and just so much nerves to do a burnout in a car that I'd never done a burnout in, to like racing a car that I'd never raced a car there before. It was yeah,
Yeah.
took some years off my life for sure.
Well, your car's got some horsepowers, so I'm sure it's quite different. If you were in your little yellow CRX again,
It would be way more fun.
well, not on the
My car is
straightaway.
not. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's my car is an interesting thing. I think people see it and just think that everywhere it goes it's going to break records, but I'm on my own path of getting there. I look. I've chatted with Mike DeSole before, and I think performance wise and aero and kind of like the aero of cars, they're kind of similar, right? They're both 70s cars. I think is 70s. Mine's a 72. Maybe is a 68 or something like that. But that kind of from that era, they're both kind of like all carbon. They're both like LS powered turbo and stuff like that. But I talked to him before, and he's been building that car for like 14, 15 years. My journey's like really for on the racing side of things, like past 6 years.
Hmm.
And developing a car that you made in essentially a pole barn, um, it's a long journey to make it fast. That's
Yeah, and you're developing a car, you're developing yourself as a driver. Like there's parallel paths going on. You've got companies, you have, work. It it all takes time, right? Your
yeah.
your timeline is going to be different from his, different from mine. You know, it's just what happens. But I feel like people get all clicky and they want the IG rep and all that stuff, and I'm like, just do you just and it
100%. I want everybody to win. You know what I mean? Like that's honestly that's why I like Time Attack so much, is that we're all on the track, but your measurement is you,
Mhm.
right? And I think our measurements are just in different times, like not like on the track, but like everybody's, you know, they're not on this, the same timeline, right? Somebody just getting started versus somebody that's been out there for a while. And dude, a lot of some of these people are just getting started, are fast right off the rip. So, I think, I get asked all the time, like, would I build my car over again? And for racing, probably not.
Right.
Right. I think I've had a lot of like really cool things I've done with the car, but I would not build my car or pick my car again to do high level Time Attack or Pikes Peak with it. It's just such a long journey to engineer a car front to back. And like this year's I think been really good. And I think not pace wise where I've been, but I'm in a crossroads with my car now that I'm really happy with my driving, and I'm really happy with and comfortable with a car that makes sometimes 1200 horsepower. But now the crossroads is that when we're making that kind of power and that much downforce and aero, we're breaking so many things that I've never broken before. So like our weekends are, this year have been really tough at Grid Life, where we're like, you know, the momentum building gets stopped real quick because, we went to Road America, showed up a little early, and was like, oh, there's a track day. Cool. And so, I'm going down the front straight on basically I did a warm up lap, and then I kind of, front straight kind of sent it just to see how the car felt. And I'm in sixth gear. I go grab seventh gear. Long story short, my Haltech knows 7 gears. My AIM dash does not. So it knows 6 gears. So I go to click seventh gear. I'm already in seventh gear on the rev limiter. So I've never taken a car that fast, but the aero in the car's been so good this year. I literally almost go to touch the brakes and and I broke my front splitter. And that weekend, a bunch of people broke their front splitters at that track. But it's just, we've raced this whole season, never had an aero problem, and I break my splitter during practice. So it made the whole weekend a little tricky where I'm constantly trying to fix my splitter and make it not fall off the car. And, I've never had a track where I could just go full beans, seventh gear, and make all the power and, get the splitter fixed. And then we started lifting the heads, and so it's been a constant. This year's been pretty tricky for us.
That's the slippery slope of car development, right? So you're like, oh, and especially instead of taking a baby step, if you take that full stride in car development, that's when things come off the wheels, right? Like they just start falling off, or you break splitters. I mean, how much power were you putting down? 1200?
Probably close to that. I mean, it's a 7-liter 427.
Okay.
So on its own, it probably makes 650. Probably a little bit more than that, but it's a Texas Speed 427. But we make about 12 pounds of boost, and doing some quick math, we should be making between 11 and 1200 horsepower. And the car giddy ups, it's great. But, we started lifting the heads, and what we were doing is we were getting cylinder combustion flow through the head gasket and then getting in our coolant system. So then we had to run the car on really low boost to get that cylinder pressure down. So for me, my journey at Road America was, we went from thinking we're going to have a fast paced weekend to just existing, right. And just getting laps in. And it's man, it's really hard to drive 21 hours away from home and then essentially break a splitter first day and then lift heads the next day and then try to salvage the weekend. But I'll tell you, we are relentless. We'll try to do anything we can to just keep the car duct taped together and come home and get ready for the next one.
I don't know if I would use duct tape on 1200 horsepower car, but
we used a lot of duct tape at Road America. That car, we duct tape every seam in the front of the car to just have a little bit better aerodynamics. And because we hadn't taken the car that fast before ever anywhere, man, I was really amazed how much taping all the seams up really chilled the front end out. It was it was, body work was kind of bouncing, and then we duct taped it all up, and it was great. We're running duct tape all the time now.
Yeah, a lot of turbulence up front. So
yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about, I buried the lead with the whole, I didn't even tell them what part we were going to talk about really, but and you guys
it's a super exciting, sexy part of motorsport.
Okay. As someone who's had brake failure twice going into turn one at my local racetrack, not because of the brake lines, but if a brake line fails, you're going to wish it was super sexy, because the price you're going to pay could be pretty catastrophic,
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. You are the owner of Hell Performance USA, and you guys do custom brake lines. You have off-the-shelf brake lines. You do all the hydraulic lines. And I think it's really important. The irony is one of your guys reached out to me about getting on the podcast, and we started talking, and I was like, well, yeah, I definitely need brake lines anyway because I'm due. And he was like, you're due. Why are you due? And I was like, they're a maintenance item for me.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be, but yeah.
Well, okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about they on a race car specifically, on a track car, sort of less so, but they live a different life. And on a street car, it's totally different, right?
Yeah.
Rubber lines on your street car, they're fine. Okay. You're probably not going to have too many problems until the thing's 20 plus years old and the rubber rots out, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about the considerations of what performance brake lines give you and why you think maybe they shouldn't be a wear item.
Yeah. So I think, I've, grown up around cars, and I would agree. I think, I've just had a bunch of junky lines. I've had some lines that are, really big name brands that like I just go to tighten on the car and they just like strip out or break. I mean, I just think they're just, I think, yeah, I think they are, some people's are consumables is I guess is what I'm getting at. So I'm gonna be like the like hair club for men spokesperson for a second. So I was racing KTM's, and I found Hell Performance only because they made orange brake lines. That's it. I
Okay.
was like, if you know any KTM guy, everything has to be orange.
Right.
So
They paint their toenails orange.
yeah. So long story short, they're like, "Oh, do you want to like work together? We'll sponsor you and stuff like that." I was like, "Cool, yeah. I just want the orange brake lines, man." And so it basically, I went through a lot of bikes and a lot of racing and stuff like that, and I always choose Hell Performance, and I just never replaced them on the bikes, And on motorcycles, if you think your brake lines get abused on a car, they get abused on a motorcycle, especially, supermoto or, you're wheel to wheel, you're in toss bikes on a regular basis. They don't stay pretty very long. And, essentially when I started building the Z, I was like, oh, cool. Like you guys do custom lines. And I'm talking about when I say we or you guys, I'm talking about the UK because Hell Performance is a UK company. And I just thought, I was like, man, you guys should have some better like representation in the United States. So they helped me out with my Z, and then I was in the music industry, like focused around live performing and stuff like that. And me and my wife, we worked for her dad, and in this company, and essentially COVID happened, and so if you can imagine, live touring completely stopped.
Yeah.
So me and my wife Jamie were like, well, what are we going to do? And we're both like, well, we're good at business, distribution, that kind of stuff. And we're like, well, why don't we just take our passion and hobby and make it into a business? So we approached Hell Performance UK since we'd have a relationship with them, and we're just like, we think we can do a really good job over here on the US side, because brake lines are just, they're kind of cheap over here, right? And not like in a cheap as like a dollar amount, just like they're cheaply made. A lot of brake lines get made in China. So long story short, here we are. So the difference with us as being a distributor for Hell Performance is like we're not moving boxes, right? We're not like distributing something that's made in the UK over here. We make all the products in the US. So for the UK guys, they machine all the fittings. They're all 304 stainless steel. They're not like cast and then zinc coated. Like every single fitting is machined. It's super impressive operation. They just load a bar and then a banjo comes out the end. It's like really impressive. It's all in-house UK sourced materials. But yeah, so we have like 14,000 SKUs between automotive and motorcycle. And so when somebody just comes on the website and orders a C6 Corvette kit in red, we just pull up our specs and usually ship the same day.
Yeah. And so I think that's the important part, right? So let's say I had lines on my second CRX. I had brake lines made or put on all of my motorcycles, which I have a plethora of. I had them on my Integra. I had them on my EM1, and now I have lines on my FG2. On track, they get a lot of, we run over a lot of stuff on track. We don't realize until you go in there and you're scooping stuff out. Our brakes hit temperatures that not necessarily the average thing was intended to, right? But I can tell you that other brands, I haven't installed the Hell Performance ones, but the other brands that I've used so far, they're consumables to me, because I find things where now there's a rubber line under the stainless steel mesh and the coating and all that stuff. But when you start to see the stainless steel mesh come away from the fitting, that means the clamping fit part of the fitting is coming loose. It's not as tight as it was before.
We have a really sophisticated, like, I'm gonna use your terminology, way to clamp it, right?
Right.
So most fittings are just like a barb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the hose goes over it, and the hose we use is a PTFE lined, so really exotic fluids can go through it, and then a stainless mesh, and then a PVC coating over top of the stainless. So we don't have like exposed stainless mesh like some people do. It's pretty standard to put a PVC coating over it. So whether it's clear or like hot pink, whatever, we have a way to like protect the stainless portion of it. But ours is not barbs. We have essentially like, the stem, there's like 3 rings on the stem. And then there's the ferrule part goes over it to swage. And there's like a really big interlocking ring on the ferrule and on the fitting. And so when those are swaged together, it is impossible to pull them apart. So that's one thing, is that, is that part. The next part, where usually the hose will start coming apart, is because the ferrule is working on the hose and it will start cutting the outside. So we use what's called an ADR boot, which is it's not like your typical like just like rubber boot. This thing is made for motorsport grade, and those are the points that like we make brake lines for MotoGP bikes, and it's the same fittings that were made for your brake line kit. So like we have to have that MotoGP standard. I mean, we are OEM for some people, and like they have to last forever. It's just, that's just how it has to be. So, and it's because there's a lot of care and attention into, a simple thing that we make as a brake line.
Well, and I think it's engineered different than what I've seen in the past. And I think it's a better product, at least on paper. I'll put it to the test, I promise. My wife says I'm hard on equipment, so.
For me, like, this one was an easy one to kind of like go all in on with Hell Performance for me as a business. Because like I said, my hair club for men is like, I'm not just a customer, I'm the owner. I was, just a customer, and I just was using it forever. And I liked the brand so much, and, the whole team over there, that I'm just like, well, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like this should be a huge brand in the US, and they're a huge brand in Europe. And they do a bunch of really cool things. It's lesser known in the United States. Like this year, we're one of the main sponsors for Moto America. And was really cool to have a lot of the, bikes, and Moto America paddock and Superbike and Super Sport. They're all running Hell Performance, master cylinders and calipers and brake lines, stuff like that. It's really cool to see, like, me and my wife's and our team's like really hard work, It's just like Grid Life. We're going around and just like, you're a customer. You just went on our website and bought brake lines for your, like 350Z. It's really cool. So like the hard work's paying off. You mentioned, one of our guys reached out to you, Jeff. He's been absolutely killing it. We're just partnering and working with people that are friends, and it's just kind of genuine, as opposed to our product's easy to sell because it's the best. It's easy. All we have to do is just talk about how good it is, and it just does its thing. It's such an easy thing.
So, and I'm glad that you mentioned that you're using PTFE line and stuff like that, because I got a little story. I was gonna revive one of these R6s that's laying down, or not laying, they're standing in the garage. And I was like, yeah, let me just refresh this thing. I'll change the fuel filter and go through the lines and stuff. And I went and grabbed the brakes. Now, mind you, this bike's been sitting for 10 years. And it went completely from full out all the way to the bar with no problems. The stuff, our brake fluid over time, if you neglect it, will turn into some caustic stuff. It
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
ate seals, right? So you have to
Yeah.
have the best hoses, right? We're seeing crazy pressures, crazy heat. You need to have the fact that I didn't even know they were machined ends, right? So,
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, there's way too much work that goes into our fittings. It's, we go over to like the UK once a year just to, you know, powwow on, plans and stuff like that. But they've got, I think it's like 27 like bar loader CNCs running. Literally, they never turn off. But it's so cool to see like stainless bar get dropped in a feeder and these like beautiful stainless like milled, banjos and banjo bolts, like everything's scalloped out. I mean, the thought process is like they're making, brake line fittings for MotoGP, and like the same banjo bolt also gets used on your FK, Civic kit. There's no difference. It's the same thing, and I think it's really cool. I think that attention to detail isn't like a hard one to do. It's just you got to do it. Help Performance, the UK guys, they've been around for 25 years, right? So, although we're new in the US, they've been doing it right for a long time.
yeah, and having cruised the website, because I was looking to see if you had 1973 CB750 line.
Do we?
I didn't
I mean,
find
I
them.
should know this, but
I didn't find them, but it's okay because I'm gonna use I think it's a 06 600RR front fork and
okay.
stuff. So I have a lot to do with this bike, but I was like, let me just see if they're off the shelf, and then I was like, yeah, I can just measure too and order custom lines if they're not.
Yeah.
Like,
So the something's different about us is like, like I said, we have like almost 14,000 just like SKUs, right?
mhm.
And we got a lot of like weird stuff too, because part of us being like a US brand and a European brand is we have like weird European cars that like only like no one else makes brake lines for. But what's really cool is we have a custom line builder too. So if ours is like dynamic, you can change it in real time to like, you can see what your brake line looks like. You can add locators and clips and all kinds of stuff. I would say half of the stuff we build every day is for like custom cars or motorcycles. And then, because really nothing's on the shelf, we just make everything to order. You can totally say, in your order for your, like maybe it's a S14 that I need it plus 3 inches in the front for my ankle kit. You know what I mean? That's super easy to do. And we don't charge any extra for that.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think you don't need in our world, in the motorsports world. Don't I would just buy the custom kit first off. I would do the measuring. It's you go to the dollar store, buy yourself a fabric measurer, or get some spare hose, follow the instructions, measure the hose when you're done, right? Um I and the price is actually pretty comparable. I'm excited because I've been on my second set of these, I won't name the brand lines, and I'm already seeing issues with it again, you know. And I'm just like, I can't deal with this. I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah. I've seen too many brake failures with just like lines chafing. We do weird stuff too. Like we can add like heat sleeve and abrasion sleeve to the lines on your order and stuff like that. So if you've got like a area that's close to, hot things, we can definitely try to help you out there. So, we're like motorsports people here, right? But we also just make brake lines for a Lancer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's so like, but maybe you're rallying a Lancer. I don't know. We can, we're kind of all over the place, but yeah, to know that your Lancer brake lines are made with the same materials and banjos and all that stuff as a MotoGP bike. I think it's super cool. Most people probably don't have no idea about that, but it's when we make product, I mean, we have a lot of respect for how they're made.
If people don't know that MotoGP is basically F1 of the two-wheel race world, like, they live under a rock, okay?
Yeah. We have some like really cool pictures too from like MotoGP and World Superbike and stuff like that, where for us, like, if you've ever seen like a bike, high side and it just starts tumbling and it's just a yard sale, the bikes just come apart, right? But we have some really cool pictures of like the forks in the frame are separated from the bike, but what's holding them together is the brake lines.
Nice. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I use that all the time. You're like, oh, how durable are your brake lines? And I'll send somebody a picture. I'm like, this durable, right? Like, hopefully your car never does this, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild that like that's I guess the clamping, our swaging process.
Mm-hmm.
It's just interlocks. There's just no way it can come apart, and that's I think one of those things that, yeah, and I think a common misconception too is that you have to have hard lines on a vehicle. And like, this is probably a hot take, but you don't. We build a lot of race cars that don't have hard lines at all on them. And Cody Vaschholz, he races Pikes Peak and one of the fastest guys there. I think he got second this year, but last year he had a brake line failure. I think like 4 or 5 turns into the run, and his run was over from a brake line. And then afterwards, I try not to like lean too much. People, I'm like, hey, I make brake lines for a living. But I said, Cody, man, if you give me an opportunity, I want to make brake lines for this whole car. And because I just don't want to ever have that be a problem for you again. And we go to spec it out, and he's like, yeah, but I've got all these like hard lines and stuff all over the car. I'm just like, we're gonna get rid of all of those. And he's like, no, you can't not have hard lines on the bike or the car. And Cody is a bike. He used to race for Ducati.
Mm-hmm.
I said, tell me where the hard lines are on your Ducati.
Right.
And now 40 by says, and there's a lot of bikes that have ABS now that do, but conventionally, on race bikes, there are no hard lines on them. And then he's like, oh, well, I didn't think about, motorcycles. And obviously it's not as big, so the lines aren't as long. But my point is that like, give me a shot. So we built the whole lines for his car with a bunch of quick releases and stuff like that, and super trick, but no hard lines on the car. And he was really, really surprised that the brake pedal feel was just like it was before. And like, we had the data to back it too, brake pressure sensors and stuff like that. With my car, it used to have a bunch of hard lines on it, and then I added ABS to it, and I was like, man, that's gonna be such a pain. I don't know if you've ever made hard lines before. What a nightmare. So I just was like, well, I'm just gonna do all soft lines, and there is no pressure difference on my car. I think at some point you could have the burst rates are different, but from 900 psi for us, pressing as hard as you can on a brake, there's no difference.
Yeah, and now I regret not getting quick disconnects and stuff on my line kit, but we'll see.
Yeah, they're pretty trick.
Yeah. So I need to order some other stuff too. I've decided I don't need the hard lines in my engine bay for at least the clutch, because it's always in the way when I remove the engine and transmissions. Honda put it in a really dumb spot, so I'm always afraid I'm going to crush
quick
it.
Releases on quick release on clutch lines are cool too.
Yeah, that's got to be absolutely key. That way you don't even have to take it. You just do the disconnect, drape one side over, and then pull it out.
There you go. Like, exactly. Yeah.
Can't ask for much more than that. So, awesome. What else? Is there anything else you want to talk about the Hell Performance lineup? I know you guys do calipers and stuff for motorcycles. When are you going to get in the car caliper game? You guys got that on the plate
so
somewhere?
Something we've talked about, I've talked about it with the UK team, and it's definitely something that will probably happen at some point. The challenge with car calipers it's definitely, I would say like Hell Performance makes some of the best motorcycle calipers out there. The problem with automotive is there's so many application differences. On a motorcycle, there's like a standard, 108 millimeter or 108 or 100 millimeter radial mount, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone uses that as a standard. So like there's really not brackets that need to be made. Some bikes do, and we do make them, but for the most part, a radial mount, there's just like two versions of it, right? So that's cool thing about motorcycles. The hard part about cars is like there's so many offset differences. There's so many brake caliper conversion. It's hard, right? So it's not the making the calipers the hard part. It's making them fit everything. That's the hard part. So like we really like kind of are trying to stay in our lane. So what we do is we partner with a bunch of people that make great calipers but don't make great brake lines, right? So, we work with Paragon this year. So if you order a Paragon kit, we make your brake lines. I mean, we've worked with, AP, a bunch of other guys. You probably have our brake lines and you don't even know it. We private label for quite a bit of, you know, big brake line companies or brake companies, just because, we do it the best and, they're trying to pair their, Alcon kit with, best brake lines. And that's the problem they have is that they don't have all the SKUs and knowledge of knowing like the chassis side. What is the chassis side fitting on an S2000, right? They just know that their caliper takes, a banjo that needs a 20-degree bend on it, right? So that's where we come in and we're like, well, we know all of the chassis sides. Your caliper side's easy. So it's just easier for us to make brake lines for other big brake kits. So maybe one day we'll do calipers, but not so much. But as far as the caliper side of things, something that we've come out recently is our carbon fiber shims, and they are absolutely excellent. We did a lot of work with those. The guys in the UK worked with the university over there, and they had an opportunity to build like the most insane, like carbon fiber shims and then just put them through the ringers. So like a Corolla GR or Yaris GR, if you're really fast, you're gonna get some brake fade on those. And they did a lot of testing with some pro drivers on the initial, carbon fiber shim, like proof of concept was, with a Yaris GR. And they were able to get so much more performance out of stock calipers and better brakes. But better brake pads are going to obviously produce a lot more heat. But the shims were able to really help keep those temps down. Plus the setup, good lines and fluid. So we do really cool carbon fiber shims for quite a few popular enthusiast track cars. We do some really cool oil coolers. I'd say we definitely have the best oil cooler kit for FK8, and FL5, Civic Type R.
Lord knows they
And I
need
would
it.
say, yeah, they do. And then, for the Corolla GR and Yaris GR, we make great, oil coolers and catch cans and new Supras and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to cater towards the guys that actually go track their cars. And, well, I would say it's weird. Most modern cars seem to need oil coolers. Um, I would think they would put bigger oil coolers on modern enthusiast cars,
Oh,
but
they got to save money somewhere. You do it.
yeah, right. Yeah.
You're supposed to commute with that car. Doesn't matter whether it's you get a free NASA pass or whatever Toyota was doing with the
Yeah.
GR stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
awesome.
yeah, I think what we do is probably not the most sexy, but it's I think a really rewarding product that we like hand make here, and yeah, we go race with our buddies that race with our products on the weekends. It's cool.
Awesome, man. So I have a segment in 2025, and it's called I want to know what your favorite racer excuse is.
My favorite,
Well, to
like my
use or
actual
heard.
experience.
Yeah, either way, either the one you've heard that you think is amazing, or the one that you've had to use that is your go-to. Pick one. But
My, I think, favorite excuse that I use is there's too much traffic on the track,
okay,
and I think it's because I feel like this year we just had like, a bunch of dumb little things happen with the car. So then, we're like slotted to be in like, A or B group. And then we missed first session, right? Because we're dealing with splitter falling apart or whatever it is. So then we, get grid in D or whatever. And so like, I got 1,200 horsepower car that can do like 180 miles an hour. And I'm I've just got all this traffic. So that's my excuse that I
Right.
use is just so many cars out there. But I don't know the best. I don't know. I feel like this year people have been on it. You know what I mean? There's really good competition out there. There's some really fast guys. I think I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna go with my excuse is that there's too much traffic out there.
That's
So,
that's fair.
but I'm gonna slap my own wrist and say I got to get some quicker times out first, and I wouldn't have that problem.
That's what Adam Jabay would tell you if you tried to use that as an excuse. But
Yeah, it's not a good excuse.
no,
It's a home built race car POS that makes a billion horsepower excuse. So
hey, hey, I mean, at least you have a billion horsepower, right? Like, so
yeah, she's an ornery little car right now, but we'll get her. We'll get her dialed in.
they're all ornery. Look, you could slippery slope almost stock Miata into being ornery if you did it the wrong way, right? Like,
Well, I I did decide that I think the reason why I'm breaking so much stuff on the car, I've never raced my car this much before.
okay,
We've done every grid life. So um we've done quite a bit of laps in the cars. So I'm watching like the GLGC guys and the C guys and like or GLGT guys have so much fun that I went and bought a car last week.
uh oh,
Yeah.
is that a hot
So
take?
that's brand new.
Brand new? Does the
I
world know?
do now.
What'd you buy?
I haven't posted. I bought so I want to race GLGT. The class is small right now. Right now, I bet next year the grid is huge. But I think that for me spoke a little bit more than the GLGC. Plus the grid is huge, right? So I wanted to buy a factory race car, and I was actually looking to buy like a Porsche GT3. I would like detune it, put smaller tires on and stuff like that. But those are such great cars, right? And like from a guy who builds cars for a living, also, that's the cheapest way you can do it. That's such a good car, and it's whatever. But um, we're doing some research. We're actually coming back from Pikes Peak, and one of my guys, Shawn, that works for me, was just we basically take turns on Marketplace when we're traveling everywhere because we're just bored.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What is this thing?" And he shows me, and it was a 350Z, but it was like full like body work, like fiberglass carbon car with like tube chassis. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So I did some research and he found this is called an SCCA runoff GT3 car. So
Okay.
this is a factory. Do you know what that car is?
I know the class. Yeah. I don't know the
They don't
car.
have it anymore.
No,
Yeah,
they don't.
so back then they did like a silhouette car, right? So it just looked like a 350Z, but there's nothing 350Z on the car
It's
except for the taillights. That's it.
tube
So
frame.
it's full tube chassis car. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, man, that would be cool to race in GLGT. They allow that car. And, obviously we have to like update it quite a bit because that thing's like very analog. There's like no electronics in that thing whatsoever. But yeah, I just thought it'd be a cool build that's kind of already tubed out and the body's there. Of course, I'll do my thing with it, but I just thought it'd be fun. I mean, this car was sitting in a enclosed trailer for 15 years. I'd never seen a day of light for
Oh,
the past 15
oh
years.
wow. Okay.
Yes. And
It's real analog then. Like
yeah,
real.
I think the last time it was raced was 2013.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously we need to do a bunch of work to it and stuff like that, but yeah, so I'm super excited to okay, so the point of all this is to race the Z a little less next year so we're not breaking it every time we get in it, and then we can do some get some seat time in with GLGT and
Yeah.
with a cool old Z or what's left of it.
That's your theme, right? Like it.
I guess so. I really didn't know I was a Z guy, but apparently I'm.
Yeah,
There we
for
go.
sure, for sure. And you're going to do this in 2026, right?
Yep.
That's the
Yeah.
plan. Okay, so you'll be joining former guest James Houghton and AJ Hartman out there on grid for GLGT. So
Yeah, I mean those guys are serious drivers. They're great. If it's an interesting thing because two wheel racing, you're really used to like rubbing elbows, banging bars. It's a lot more aggressive than four-wheel racing, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But four-wheel racing, we have to like maintain like a bubble around each other, right? You can't get too close to the bubble. But with motorcycles, you could literally crash each other out and like really hurt yourself. I think it's just an odd thing. So I'm gonna have to make sure I channel my
Elbows
little
in.
bubble around everything. Yeah, elbows in. Yeah. So I'm gonna take it easy next year. You know, kind of get used to how everybody. I think that was a big thing with two wheel racing is I knew everybody on grid and I was really comfortable with everybody's riding style. So you know, being the new guy with wheel to wheel racing, I need to make sure I kind of see it, feel everybody's style out, and not try to do too much too quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And
until the helmet comes off and that all goes away.
Have you done wheel to wheel out in four wheels before?
I have not.
Okay. It's
so.
I mean, the line is different in a race car versus a race bike, right? Like it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, you want to protect. You're doing a lot of protecting and setting up and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Grid Life has Grid Life has the overlap rule, so
yeah,
that's different too. That helps keep people's elbows in because as soon as you get overlap, you get the space, right?
Yeah.
It's unlike other places where you got to take the door, or something like that. So,
yeah, I think, I think it'll be really cool. Like I said, I want to make sure I fit in well and kind of go with the flow and make sure like I kind of gain everybody's respect as opposed to just trying to go out there hot dogging it first race. I'm not looking to trash my car or anybody else's.
Yeah, for sure. They're not motorcycles. You can't just buy another one and throw some shark plastics on there and keep going.
Yeah, you've got another one in the trailer that's already ready to go. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that like the big thing for two-wheel racing is that, yes, the bikes are disposable, but you can like get really hurt. And four-wheel racing is, I don't really care about getting hurt. Just don't mess my car up.
I mean, you've seen the time investment in the cars. I think that's why they don't like them torn up. Motorcycles, whatever.
I'm into that. I don't want my car torn up.
See?
That's why I got into Time Attack.
So, I mean, but that's it, right? Like in the motorcycle world, it's like, okay, you build a couple bikes and you're going to get really good with safety wiring. And then after that, same
also cutting yourself on safety wire,
cutting yourself on it, putting in Dezous fasteners, using zip ties to mount all your body work. Like it all becomes second nature. And then you just recycle whatever survived the high side or the low side or the flip through the field. I had a roommate who he went off at VIR in the kink and nearly made it into the Dan River. Before he flipped and then broke his collarbone. And he was way out in the grass. So
I would take wrecking a motorcycle every day of the week than wrecking a car.
Well, okay. I'm older than you are. I'm too old for that business, but
I am too, but they both are not fun, but it's like racing cars to me at first was a little scary. I didn't like being stuck in something. I wanted to like let go of it or slide on my butt or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's different. But. Yeah. All right, Shawn, it's been a pleasure, sir. You guys are welcome anytime, especially if you guys, hopefully, are you guys going to go to like PRI or anything this year?
Yeah, I think we might have our, I got a lot of work to do, but I think we might have our 350Z there.
Nice. Oh, you got a lot of work to do then. Make it a SEMA style build then.
I've got a regular life to do as well. Yeah. Plus, we're racing Laguna and the Z, the 240Z. Yeah.
Okay.
So
you like
we're gonna do button wheels. I got too much to do. Yeah.
Yep. All right, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. It was super fun.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.